So we got a few little sneaky nerfs to the rogue here in the bug fix section that a lot of you have brought my attention to. After I posted the video, I went ahead and read the bug fix section myself. I figured it was just going to be some of the similar things that they mentioned in their dev update live stream, such as like the Tibble's will fix, where you could artificially inflate your combo point cap. But I didn't expect to see this one, which is a massive Twisting Blades nerf overall, which completely kind of changes some of the builds associated with Twisting Blades and will change basically any sort of skill that interacts in this way going forward. So we got to talk about that. I also want to talk about content in this game, new content, and a few of the problems associated with it, as well as kind of the common perspective around it. So before we get to that, I got something to show you all. Has this ever happened to you? Maybe you're running a dungeon, maybe you're just selling items in town, and then boom, 1,000 ping. Diablo 4 has been riddled with connectivity issues, server issues, ping issues, random other issues, disconnects. And with Season 3 just around the corner, I want to help you all limit that as much as possible. So normally my ping sits somewhere around 60, 70 maybe, to upwards of 95. And with GearUp Booster launched, I can simply click on Diablo 4 and reduce my ping by, in some cases, all the way down to 35 to 40, but I regularly get around 60 ping, as you can see here. For you hardcore players, it's going to be especially important not just to reduce ping, but also to improve network stability. So hopefully no more random trips to character selection screen or character creation. As you saw, it's extremely easy to start up and use. And don't worry, your account will not be banned, since it simply stabilizes your network and can help reduce latency by 70%. Even professional players like Asian Jeff and Miro use this for prepping their games in Fortnite. Don't worry though, they didn't forget about console players, as they also have a new high-tech game router, the HyperRev, with faster download speeds and higher network stability. Definitely give GearUp Booster a shot if you're looking for lower and more stable ping using the link below, and let me know if you're able to get lower ping than mine. Thank you, GearUp Booster. So this bug fix is incredibly game-changing for the Twisting Blades, not in a good way. There were a few bug fixes here that were expected. As they've mentioned in the developer live stream here, we were expected to see some changes to the Druid. We were expected to see some, really bug fixes associated with the violent upgrade on Barbarian. We were expected to see potentially some ball lightning fixes that were legitimately, it looks like, bug fixes. And apparently in that category, Twisting Blades also falls under bug fixes, right? And in association with the Blade Dancers aspect, apparently the poison imbue was not intended to do full damage. So when we look at the poison imbue and we look at the Blade Dancers aspect, which they actually did just adjust within this patch notes, the Twisting Blades was supposed to orbit for a short time. Based on the distance the blades return, the orbit damage increased up to 20 to 30% of the return damage. And on a base level, it dealt 10 to 15% of Twisting Blades return damage. Now, it just says Twisting Blades. When you poison imbue a Twisting Blades or poison imbue anything, it just kind of inflicts that portion of base damage of that skill or whatever skill you're using on the enemy. And so you could argue that that was supposed to be this 20 to 30%, or you could argue that it was like the base Twisting Blades amount. And it looks like it was applying the base Twisting Blades amount. And so according to the team over here at Blizzard, that was a bug. Okay, it is what it is. That's what we have to deal with now. But this also means that any situation where we are applying some secondary effect on something that's supposed to be related to the base damage is probably going to get changed going forward. So if there's any sort of like increased damage with multi-hitting, with poison imbues that we find in any of our future builds, this should be expected to be fixed. This hard nerfs how valuable poison imbue was with Twisting Blades, in conjunction with Twisting Blades not hitting as many times with the Blade Dancer aspect nerf. This heavily guts the poison imbue Twisting Blades from what it was before. Couple that with the close quarters combat nerf, which in some cases was not used, but in other cases was. This is a big nerf to the overall melee builds, and specifically Twisting Blades, as I've mentioned many times already. On top of that, the Tybalt's Will, where you could increase the cap for combo points and get some massive DPS out of your combo points. That also being a bug fix, which that seemed much more reasonable since, you know, combo points have a limited amount, according to anything that really like mentions combo points. That seems very reasonable. So we get a massive power reduction for melee builds at large for the rogue this season, and we're going to get some power shifted into our ranged builds. What that means for the rogue is that we're probably just going to be an overall nerfed class from what we've experienced in the past for the rogue, which is a little unfortunate. So I'm going to be focusing probably on maybe some inner sight rapid fire builds, or potentially going for some, you know, maybe penetrating shot now that we have increased crit chance. It could have some interesting aspects there, or aspects not in the term of aspects of the game, but aspects as in a build. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. Other than that, I did want to talk a little bit about new content in this game, because that was sort of the feedback that I got from the patch notes. Not only was, you know, all the different hidden little changes that they didn't really suggest were going to be happening in the developer live stream. They did mention they're going to be fixing bug fixes. The other thing was, okay, there's some changes. People are not necessarily happy with that, and that's fine. That's kind of just the nature of balance changes. But the other thing was, a lot of the criticism came in the form of, hey, why do we never receive new content? And then you point to like Avatar of Zir or the Midwinter Blight, and people are like, well, that's not new content. It's the same thing. You're just progressing in a different way. And to be honest, I don't really think that people have caught on to the nature of what Diablo 4 is going to be. Now, does that mean that that's necessarily something that they have to be okay with? Absolutely not. If you want new content and you want to see something that's not just, here's your balance changes, and here's your minor additions of aspects, or you know, this slightly different dungeon, or hey, now you're going to be a strong character but have a companion that you're going to modify, right? None of this stuff a lot of people consider as new content. They're looking for new playable gameplay, not some way to modify your build or to build a completely different, you know, build. That's not something that's new content to a lot of people. And if you don't consider Abattoir of Zir or Midwinter Blight new content, which, I mean, you could consider it since it is literally just new things inside the game, but it's the same killing monsters, then you're not really going to see any new content inside the game. You're not going to be seeing something like, oh, here's some new raid mode, or here's some, I don't know, new random insert X dungeon that's a little bit different here. And to be honest, this is just pretty common in any, you know, live service game. Like if you play World of Warcraft and you play for a while and they add a new raid or a new dungeon, it's the same thing. You know, you're killing monsters to beat bosses and then get loot, and that's just what Diablo 4 is. So this idea that there's like never new content inside the game is just not ever going to be appeased, right? Not only because Diablo in specific has a lack of new dungeons and new things season by season, but because Diablo 4 specifically and Diablo 3 has always been focused on getting you additional ways to experience your build. And that's how the new content gets kind of put inside the game, because you're experiencing the same content just slightly differently. So if you're expecting some sort of difference for season 3, you're not going to get it. And I said the exact same thing for season 2, and yet the same criticisms still lie. And those are perfectly valid criticisms. I totally understand, because I feel that way as well oftentimes, where I'm like, hey, you know, maybe I just don't want to kill monsters today. Well, I'm not going to log into Diablo for that reason. But ideally, in the future, if you continue to play Diablo and try for these different seasons, the way you're going to kind of get your fix of new things is through the new season mechanics and new builds. So hopefully that's what you're interested in. And if you're like me and you're a little disappointed about the bug fixes for the Twisting Blades, then maybe you'll get some new content by trying out a completely different build that maybe you've never tried before, which is what I'm going to be trying to do. Maybe I just go in with a full-on, you know, burst killing, boss killing, rapid fire build, which I think could be really, really fun. So that's going to be looking forward, or I'm going to be looking forward to in the next couple of days. Stay tuned, guys, for a build as well as some other guides starting in season 3. See See you then.